Hi guys, hope you're doing well. I am doing a video on this one here today. Um, During the week, because I was pulling a couple cards, um, like a daily card scenario last week, and just to kind of see where things were going in the direction, because some doors are opening now in December. Um, Not maybe for just me, but for a lot of people as we're moving into the next year, right? So doors closing, doors opening, a lot of shifting, changing during this time. Maybe people passing over, maybe people coming in. A lot of things are happening at the end of the year, the season, right? So a lot of changes, a lot of openings, a lot of closings, and shifting, right? So what does that mean? Um, it means that you may end up, shifting out of a job, out of a relationship, maybe starting a new one, right? So a lot of things depending on where you are on your timeline, your experience, what you're manifesting and working towards, right? So in that way, um, it's just be open, to whatever is coming, whatever you've been manifesting, working on, and the season closes and opens new doors, right? So it's like a death and then a life, in which we go through on all timelines, all perspectives, all realities, right? We learn and grow through evolution of that, right? So there's life, there's death, there's in between, right? The multiple timelines that's unseen, but we live them out as it is per se as our lives, right? And from that perspective, we have different things going on in our lives that manifest and then they end up going out, right? So it's a constant evolution of flow, right? Generating off of itself where it is in the current moment, right? Because in order for you to manifest something else, you're in the current moment making that decision and choice of where it is that you want to be or where you don't want to be. And from that, it generates energy towards the new evolution, right? So if you get into a job or a relationship and then you're like, oh, I don't want this, or oh, yeah, this is great, you manifest from that point. It's the present moment, right? That we're manifesting what's appearing, right? From that perspective, except for when our ideology or perception of reality is in the past, right? So we can be in the present moment, here now, physically, but not mentally, or we can be here physically now and mentally, right? So it's either or, which manifests into the future, whatever we're creating and manifesting from in that point of view in its own realization. Because when it comes into your view, then it's in realization of itself where you are in the moment, right? And it's a continuation of what is in the past, right? So if you're living in the present moment, but your mind is in the past, you're reliving that. And it's going to keep continuing, right? The evolution of that to the past and to the future, because that is what you're living now. But if you're in alignment with yourself, your true self source in the present moment, learning about an intention setting, that is the perception that you're manifesting from, right? Which is a realization of the future, bringing that into the present moment, right? Because where you are now is what you're wanting or not wanting, if that makes sense. In the realization of that, so that's that perspective that we're taking up. And so from that end of the stick, what we're saying is that whenever you are choosing, something that you're manifesting or working on, be mindful, be present with that, whatever you're choosing from that point of view and where we are when we're manifesting or what we're thinking or what we're bringing into evolution, right? And so from that evolution, we can experience that going in the future, if that makes sense. So bringing that all into a whole, the experience of now, what is happening now in your life, what is going on in the present moment for you that you're working on developing, channeling, evolution, because we are all channeling, right? In our manifestations, we are channeling, right? We're creating with the divine being, right? Who we truly are and what we're connected to, right? From that point of view and that perspective, wherever it is that we are viewing it from, right? The old self, the new self, or the present moment self, right? So we live out different multiple timelines on that perspective, if you will. And that's from creating the realization of who we are in that moment. And so the realization of self is the present moment, right? What you're waking up to every day, what you're feeling into, what you're manifesting, where are you in the moment? Because when you are manifesting something, you're in that present moment of it, right? Which is wherever it is that you are on the conscious level of that appearance, what is taking place, right? And you may think it is this, but it's not, it's that, right? But in our realization of it, we think it is, right? But for instance, if you're manifesting and working on something and you feel like it's not working out, but in the background, right? I'll just say that um, it's working out. It's manifesting. It's in the process, but we may think that it isn't, right? But it's manifesting, and so when it's manifesting, we have to kind of accumulate that, right? We have to kind of encourage that, kind of keep that in motion, right? Having the trust that it is manifesting from that point of view. And so always bring yourself to the present moment, even though we don't see it in the moment, right? We are manifesting it. It is manifesting. We are just not there yet, right? But we have to just trust in that. But when you go into that realization of, this isn't working out, this isn't, blah, 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 it kind of takes us off the path of what we're trying to manifest to bring it in to us in that present moment for, who it is that we are, which is in our alignment, the situation. And when we're not in alignment with the situation, we're creating a defense, right? Defense mechanism is what they're saying, and it's the realization that it's a framework, right? And so they're just saying that it's basically where it is that it's not manifesting, right? And so we're using this as an example for an experience that we're having on that timeline in the experience that we're creating, which is a realization that it's not here yet when it actually is. It's just seeing it and being on it, the path that's relating to it, which is where it is that you are in the dynamic of it, that's creating itself on that level of awareness. And then when it brings it to you, then you become more in alignment with it where you are. And then you're like, oh, I got it. And now I understand it, right? And so there's that dynamic of period of time where you're like, okay, it's not manifesting, it's not working, whatever. But it actually is, right? It's a paradigm that we're continuing creating from the present moment, which helps us either takes us off or on the path of what it is that we're wanting in the creation of it. And so manifesting is on its way. It's always on its way. It's always magical. It's always perfect. It's always divine, divine timing, right? The realization of being one and true to ourselves in alignment and faith to that, right? And not getting off the path and suffering the lack of it, if that makes sense. And so the perfect divine alignment, divine timing that we have on the path is just a realization, just, that we have it already. And just knowing that it is becoming and it is there around the corner at any moment, right? And though that moment may not be when we want it, it's there, right? And we just have to be in tune and aware of it when it does show up, right? And tune into that, tap into that, have that realization, and understanding that we are free to choose and do whatever we want, but at the same time, we're manifesting things that are on a timeline from other perspectives, right? And that's the manifesting that's manufactured into the perspective aspect, where it is that we're realizing we are either or we are not in alignment to what we're wanting to manifest. And then in creation of itself, it manifests on different timelines, so you can have a pick, right? So it's like, okay, I'm choosing from this, and this, and this, and this from that perspective. And when we're choosing from the timeline of not having, we're absence from it, right? It's not the realization that it's coming to you. There is no set time frame of it because there is no time. it's the realization of it that's creating, right? So there's no um, creation of time in the manifesting process. It's you who is doing the time, the counting the days, counting the hours, counting the minutes, the moments until you receive it, right? Which is an aspect of self, the human consciousness, the constructs that we created. Um, but in the aspect of time, there is no time in the realization of manifesting, right? It's just a continuation of evolution, right? Which brings it forward to something else in its understanding of where you are and what you're wanting and what you're believing. Because if you're in the process of manifesting, what they're saying is, say we're trying to manifest something and then our thoughts go into, well, the lack absence of it, so we're going to go there. Right, and it's kind of like a detour, right? Instead of staying on the path, we go into the absence of it, and so we have that experience, and then we go into this one, and then we go into this one, and it's like all these different side roads off the highway into, like the byways, if you will, because we're never really off the path. We're just kind of on the byway, right? Like the roads that run along the highway, the byway, which was what they call it when I'm channeling for me to understand that. So we're on the byway when we're choosing the lack absence of it, right, in the creation, which is time, right? Time it takes for it to manifest, and the evolution of it and the creation, because it's doing all these different things to help build and bring it to you so that it's perfect, right, in timing with you where you are. So there's times where we do go off the path, and it's not um, to be looked at in a bad way, because it's not. There's nothing ever in against you or in a bad way or punishment, right? And in the lack of having your manifestation is just when you're ready, right? It's when you're ready to be there in that moment. At the same time, even though there is no time to say per se, the absence of, it's actually the absence of that is time. That's what creates time, is the absence of source, because when you are one with source, there is no time. Time doesn't exist. When you're separate from source, there's the lack, the absence, the darkness, the shadow, the aspect, the realization of who you are as a being, the understanding of who you truly are from that point of view, the existence of your being, like human, like the tree or the grass, right? You are now into the play of life, right? So time is the absence of source, right? That's the creation of time from here to there, because when you are with source on the other side, there is no time. It's immediate. It's not even, it doesn't even take a fraction of a second, if you will, or even a millimeter of a second. I don't even know time. I don't know like the measurements, but it's like it's instantaneous. It's like there's no, it just is, right? When you're on the other side and you're with source, um, it just is, right? Everything just is right there and then now. There is no separation. There's no trying to get to. There's no not knowing. There's no punishment. There's no shame. There's no lack, right? It's when you have the lack of source, the knowledge of who you truly being is, which is why we've come into this place, which is the lack of it on that perspective. So they're I'm just kidding. Okay. So that's when we are like when we're separate, right? So we can be in this perspective in reality, which is a timeline of where we currently are in the moments, and be connected to source, and then there's no time, because when we're connected and you're doing what's in alignment, like you go into like this space and it's like time just passed and you don't even know it. It's like when you're doing an activity that you really enjoy and you're just in the moment, right? And I'm sure everybody's had this experience. When you're in the moment, you're in divine timing alignment, right? And time doesn't exist there, and you just wake up out of it. And I've had that experience quite a few different times, right? From this perspective, but also on the other side of, you know, being with source within your death experience. And so that is the doorway. That's like the connection that we want to try to be into in every day and every moment of our lives if we can be. But a lot of times that doesn't happen because we have things that take us out of that alignment, that perspective. But that's the practice. Practice being in alignment every and all day as much as possible, and being connected to have the absence of the lack, if you will, right? And so it's the absence of the lack that brings you back to who you truly are and your understanding of what your purpose is, what your path is, where you're doing, what you're working on, and what it is that is bringing you joy, happiness, bliss, health, wealth, and being, right? And so it's the absence of what we know that brings us into our separateness, right? Is the other thing that they were saying. So that's what has time. So if your soul is on the journey, right? Your soul is on the journey, and you have absence in your being that doesn't understand certain things or wants to learn and grow from it and have the understanding, because our souls come here to learn, to have the understanding, to have the experience, to get the knowledge, right? And so part of that is the lack of being. So when you're in lack of being, which is creating time, which is your separateness, right? It's those things that your soul doesn't have yet to learn and obtain, to acknowledge and to understand, that we come in on a certain timeline to have those experiences from that perspective, which is the learning of it on that specific topic, we'll just say. So, for instance, you want to learn how, I don't know, how to be a speaker or whatever it is, whatever your soul is coming in to learn and to experience. It creates this because it's an absence of source, right? It's an absence within you, that is bringing you into the paradigm of the life that you're taking up, which is, for like me, this Laura version of myself. And so whatever this Laura version of myself is living, my soul can take into that space from the absence of the knowing of the timeline that's creating itself in its own awareness, to take it up to be in that perspective and that understanding, which is the soul alignment with source and you, who you truly are from that perspective, understanding and learning and gaining the knowledge, if you understand that, if that makes sense. And so it's from that point of view that we can close that gap. Because once we've learned it, we got it, we understand it, we have the knowledge, we have the understanding, there's no more reason or need to come back in on that timeline to have that experience in life, right? So when we are creating, it's part of the whole system of awareness that we're creating to have the awareness, to gain the understanding of source, because source knows all, right? And it's the aspects of itself that is in awareness of itself that it doesn't. And so when you have an absence of something that you don't know, you're in training, right? You're in training to go get that and experience it and have that. And it's part of creation, what we're creating in our lifetime. And so a lot of times in manifesting something that we don't want or we do want, helps us on that timeline of the experience, per se. But simply stated, it's the timeline that you're experiencing. It's of lack, right? Time is the lack and absence of knowledge and wisdom, which creates the opportunity for you to have the experience, which is why there is time. The experience and the feeling of, it's not manifesting, it's not in realization of it, it's not creating it, because in order for you in that space and that time for you to have your manifestation, there may be things that you need to go through in order to make and connect the dots so you can be there, if that makes sense. And so that's time. That's the lack and absence of space and knowledge and wisdom for you to be there in that present moment, to have that paradigm come into and for you at that present moment. So for instance, you're going to school to be a doctor, right? There's certain courses that you need to take along the path, which is the byways, in order to be the doctor, right? So you have to take this course, this course, this course, this course, and putting it all together, and then you are now ready. You get your certificate, your diploma, right? Is a good example, what they're showing. And so that is manifesting, right? Sometimes we have to take the byways in order for you to fill the gap of that space of knowledge, so you can obtain and retain, understand from that perspective what you're wanting to work on, and manifest in your life to bring that to fruition, right? Because it's the lack of absence that brings time, right? Time for you to study, time for you to learn, time for you to have the creation and manifesting, and that's your part and role in it, right? So it's what you do in that byway, that off ramp, to your manifestation that helps you. And so time gives you that space and ability to do that in the change and the evolution of what you're creating. And it's kind of like the dish, the mold, the play, the clay, right? So you're putting everything into your pots, right? So it has all the different things. And along each step of the way, there's a set point where you would want to reevaluate, right? The steps you've taken to that present moment, what has been a part of it, and look back and reflect upon what is your path, your journey up to this point, and where you have been and what you've done in the creation of it into that manifestation. And each time it's a reevaluation point, which takes you on that timeline. So look at it from a perspective of the past, right? I've done this and I've done this and I've done this and I've done this, right? And so in manifesting it all coming together, you can have the realization looking at it from a whole perspective. What has my whole life led me to in this present moment? And where has it not led me to? What is it? What is my why? What is it, my purpose? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Because nothing seems to be working, but it actually is, right? So manifesting the unfolding of the bread, if you will, like when you're making bread is the other example they're bringing in. You're putting in the flour, you're putting this in, the sugar, the water, the yeast, or whatever it is, and then you have to let it set and rise, right? And then you have to beat it down and mold it. And with making bread, you're like kneading it, right? You're like mixing it all up, and then again you let it rise, right? And so it's this process of evolution that brings you to the present moment of what you're creating in that in that experience, right? To have it and being present, and in the molding, it creates that in its evolution and leavening, right? The bread, of course, from that experience. But that example, and then from that, we're able to take it a bit further, because now that we are at that present moment, that we have a, I don't want to say a stepping off point, but a realization of, okay, where am I now? Reevaluating your life, right? There's periodic times throughout manifesting where we want to reevaluate, you know, what's really going on. What is it that I need? Is there something more that I need? Or do I have all the pieces of the puzzle? Am I currently creating in the present moment? Or what else can I add to it to make it better, right? It's kind of like, if you have a business and then you want to add to it, right? So I have all this now. What am I going to do now, right? And it's the adding on to that of the leavening of the bread that adds more to it. So if you wanted to add maybe some lemon zest, or seeds, it's the topping, if you will. What are the other things that you want to add to it? Brings it into the fullness of it in its creation. And for the experience that I'm having in my life, just to give you an example, right? Everything that I've been through from the beginning of the points of my life in this existence, even in the past lives, everything has brought me to this present moment in my life. The genetics, my family DNA, the reason I took up this body, this form, this Laura being, this version, has led me to this present moment. And so from just this one lifetime, I've had many other lifetimes intercede, right? I've had past lives as a Native American, as a shaman, as like a Buddha, right? A yogic, a nun. I've had like a bug. I mean, I've had all different kinds of lifetimes from my path on this lifetime. I've been seeing them manifest into this lifetime. So I've had the human version. I've had the death experience. I've had the Kundalini. I've went and learned about nutrition. I went and learned about um, counseling, and I've gone and done the byways, right? And so bringing that all together, right? What is it that I can do with this, right? So I do coaching, right? I bring all my experiences together, and how can I bring this to the world and fulfill that space with everything that I have taken in the knowledge and the wisdom? Because once we gain that, we want to do something with it, right? We don't want to just be like, okay, whatever. We want to bring our knowledge to the plates and work with it and help people manifest it, because you know what that does? It ingrains that into your being, that you have that knowledge and wisdom when you're able to turn around and teach that and help other people with it, right? That's your service. Your life is your service. It's your path, right? That's your service. You come in for a reason and purpose, right? And so bringing that as a human perspective and the soul perspective, everything together on the path and at a timeline that's existing right now from everything that has been, is now where you're evaluating is what you can do with what you've gained, the knowledge and wisdom. So teaching it, putting that in the world, helping others regain themselves from that awareness, right? And so helping them helps you, and helping you helps them, right? It's all together, if that makes sense. And so from that path, when we're ready, when we have ingrained it and integrated it, that's integration. Once we've taken the byways, we bring it all together. And that's integration now when we were teaching it and giving it to others and giving it to us. We're integrating that into the human system, our understanding, our DNA, our structures from the path. And from there, then we go on to another byways, right? As that's evolving, because once you've become a teacher of your master, what you've mastered, right? It brings it more into fruition, right? So you have that space, you're in alignment with it, source. Now you know. Um, because, and I've had that experience where, okay, now it's time to teach, and they've always kind of guided me on the path since my awakening, right? It's like, okay, now it's time to do this, now it's time to do this. So we're not always going to be meant to be and do, you know, certain things in our lives. Like a lot of people are under the impression, and I was taught that when I was younger, you go and you go to work and you do this, and this is your whole life forever. It doesn't work that way, right? You're kind of limiting yourself if you're doing that and you're under that perspective and understanding that if you are going to go to work and just be one thing for your entire life, without learning anything and anything else and adding to it, you're always growing, evolution. You have to keep continuing um, growing, and even like when you're a nurse or if you're a massage therapist, we have CEUs to add to it. We can add different modalities to being that. We don't always have to just be that, right? Because that's limiting, right? Our soul wants to grow and evolve, and when it doesn't, it gets kind of diminished, right? We're not fulfilling our soul's purpose of evolution, learning, creating, manifesting, doing things, changing things up, learning new modalities, adding more tools to our toolkit. And so I have a lot of those. I have, like I said, the counseling, the nutrition, the metaphysical, the medical intuitive, the tarot readings. I have a lot of things that the channeling that I do and I bring to the plate. And so that's where I help people, right, on the timeline of where it is now. And so from that brings me bringing it all together into how I help people, right, with the passing over experience in your death experience. I do life reviews in our coaching sessions. And so I help you view your life from that perspective, which helps you to change and transform your life no matter where and what timeline you're on. In order for you to do that, you can transform your life and move on forward. Otherwise, you're going to continue living in the past of that situation that you're not or haven't let go of yet, and you need to process and work on. But from that perspective, every time we're in a space of reflecting and reevaluating our lives, right, the more we add to it, the byways that we're taking. For the highway, our center point, where our main goal is, being the doctor, being the lawyer, being whatever it is, that the baker, right, whatever it is that we're doing, it unfolds, right? It unfolds more and more and more. So say you went to college to be a cook, and then you were like, oh, well, I like baking more than cooking. So then you go on the whole baking route, and then you're like, oh, well, I'm baking, and then it's been like 5 years, and it's like, then you get this idea, oh, I want to open a shop now. So you open your own bakery and blah blah blah, and now you're like, okay, I want multiple locations, and now you're having like multiple bakeries, and then you become, and it's just an evolution process, right? And so there are milestones even to your goal, right? There's milestones to your goal to become, and there's always an evolution of it, right? And so from those places, when it's time to take a reevaluation of what it is or path that you're going, it's time to, and the manifesting comes to you, through you, for you, in the highest and best way. And it's you taking that path and route to it, right? So it's never ending. It's never an ending evolution of civilization is the word that I'm getting, from that perspective, right? And as we're doing it, you can see it unfold. Like if you've already been there, you can see the path, how it unfolded. We just can't see the future. And that's what sets us off from the path, is when we're seeing that we can't see the future. But when we can see it, then we know it is on the path manifesting, right? And so I have myself visions of things that are coming in, things that are already happening, things that are manifesting. Like the other day, I was sitting in the chair at my desk, and I was literally, because what I'm working on manifesting is something more from where I currently am and manifesting. So what I've been doing, and although my point is, okay, I want to help people, right? My path has taken me on those different byways, the nutrition, the counseling, the near-death experience, learning the near-death experience process, the life review, and different things like that, right? And so that's been my path, to bring that full manifestation into the process. And though we may think that it's not happening, it is. It's just realization that it's happening, but in the way that it needs to happen in order for you to be there and get there in the path that's going to best suit you for who you truly are, from your whole existence, right? From what you know. Because the universe works with you from where you currently are in the moment, that loves you on the highest and best way. And so it brings it to you in the best way possible, that it can get to you, through you, and for you on that paradigm, in that perspective, right? Because your perspective is different than another's, right? So your path is not going to be the same. Your path is special, divinely created for you, because it knows your paradigm, it knows your energy, vibration, your purpose, it knows your route of being. It's in connection with you and source, right? So it works for you on that perspective of awareness, right? So it helps you in directing and guidance of your path, which is perfect for you, right? And so that's a paradigm that's a part of the manifestation, is the realization of itself on its highest and its lowest version of you. And it knows all the paradigms within between, if you will. And so from that perspective, we're allowing it or we're not allowing it in our awareness, right? So it's what we're not willing to look at or to see from where it is that we are, in understanding, okay, how is this playing out? What is this? How is this a part of what I'm trying to do and where it is? But knowing that it is, just trusting that it is, even if it isn't what you're wanting, know that that is part of it, right? Because we have to be able to see from different perspectives, right? So from that point of view, we're realizing and allowing that to happen when we're in understanding of where we are is manifesting, no matter what that is on that timeline, creating something we want or don't want. It's the purpose of fulfilling that, so we can have the purpose that we need. Because how can we have the knowing if we don't know, right? And so even the purpose of not knowing or not wanting or not caring or having the experience of it, is allowing, right? And it's the purpose of having it on that perspective, which is adding to it, right? It's the creation of not knowing, or the not having, or the not experiencing, or the lack of it, which is perspective, right? And on the timeline, right, again, it's creating a space where you're not wanting to be. Because, like, how can you help somebody if you don't know the other side of it, right? So your experience brings that to you. It's a collective energy, a vibration, a force that's bringing it to you on that perspective awareness, so that way you can have it in the understanding and the knowing and the creation of it, so you can best serve others as you're serving yourself, which is both on the timeline of creation and allowing that to exist from its awareness of where you are in the timeline, so you can get to your path of what you're wanting to create, if that makes sense, right? And so it's awareness that we have that, what I'm working on is or isn't, but it always is. So no matter what, try not to look at it as nothing is right, nothing's not working, and be positive, and just know that it's all working out for the best and the highest, right? And so you are divinely loved, divinely cared for, and respected and appreciated for everything and all your things that you're doing, because on the timeline you're creating something else for the future, right? Future evolution of humanity, future evolution of who you're going to be as a soul, right? Future endeavors, future experiences, because you have to be in order to be later from that perspective, if that makes sense. So allowing and loving and being who you truly are is evaluating yourselves on different levels of awareness of where you are in that experience, in that perspective, right? And so just having that and allowing that to be, is just perfectly divine and loving yourself, right? And just having that experience of just being and allowing and loving yourself from different perspectives, even if it's something that you don't want to be or where you're not wanting to be. And that it's accumulation of all things, right? Which is creating, if that makes sense. So, yeah, if there's any other questions, or if you wanted to put any comments, those are welcome, and we can kind of answer those for you as we're channeling these videos and putting these out here, you know. But we always come to, basically our evolution of what we're creating on the timelines. So don't give up, keep going, manifesting, happy journeys.